speaking of teams rebuilding, so we're gonna take a look at the lottery, the bottom teams in the league, and who, which one do you think has the most flexibility? Like, who really needs that a top pick, and if they fall, they're kind of losing their opportunity, or who can afford to drop a few? Any teams come to mind?
Like, as in drop a few, as in win some games? Or
No, I mean like when the lottery comes around, who can be like, yeah, we can drop that. So like, for example, I see the most flexible team as the Rockets. The best two players that they're rebuilding around are just both wings. Some can play guard with guys like Green and Porter Jr. I mean, you could take a center, you could take a point guard, you could take another wing, you could take
I think,
definitely
yeah,
a
I mean, the
forward.
Rockets would love to get the number one pick or at least a top three pick because
Yeah,
they have lots of flexibility. I mean, you would have thought that a guy like Christian Wood was a staple to stay there with the team, but more in reality, they might be looking to replace him.
yeah.
And they could maybe use a guy better than Kevin Porter Jr. because he's had a disappointing season. If you have a good enough pick, maybe you get a really solid pure point guard that you put next to Jalen Green. Maybe that makes some more sense. Or,
Oh,
I mean, this is a strong forward draft as well. Nothing wrong with just taking best player overall.
oh yeah, or just a really nice shooter. I mean, yeah, best player overall is certainly what the Rockets are looking for, but and they like with that flexibility with the players they have, I think they wouldn't mind if they fell. I mean, the first, I mean, I'd say we have two major forwards and obviously a center. That's huge. I think Jaden Hardy will be really nice. I don't think, obviously, he's not the right fit here because they basically have Jaden Hardy and they drafted him last year, but I think the Pistons are pretty flexible too. I mean, obvious. It's basically just not point guard, right? That's just what they're not going to pick up because Cade's shown he's like, yep, give me the offense, I can run it, I can be that player you drafted. He's showing it, and that's really nice to see. And I mean, they have really nice pieces like Sadiq Bey. They have Grant, but both of them are really flexible. Sadiq can play the two or three. Grant can play three or four.
Yeah.
So like,
And
really, you
Grant
could draft anyone.
realistically will get traded at some point. He's not really part of the long term plan, so I wouldn't worry about his position wise when drafting. But I think a lot of these teams are looking for big man, or would be happy with that, or they're just flexible in general. But a lot of these teams have good guards. Another team that has good guards is the Thunder, and they're hoping to obviously have a great pick this year. They've every year had a lot of first round picks. They're just hoping one of them's gonna be a top three one of these days. But hey, this last season they had the sixth overall and they turned it into a great player. So it's fine, it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you start getting more constricted where they're especially with the draft we have, the draft class, they're hoping that they get a top pick because I mean, you fall lower, you miss out on guys like Jabari, Paolo. I think Chet is really who they're looking at. I think that would
Yeah,
be great for them. I think they really
for
want
sure.
that. I mean, they have guys like Baisley and Roby that they would still like to develop a little more, but their center position's pretty wide open. I
Yeah,
think the Mad
they need better big man. I mean, I wouldn't worry about like Baisley or Roby when planning your future. Like those are solid players, but neither of them have shown star potential.
Yeah,
And you need a guy who can be a co-star next to Giddy and Shea because those guys look like they're gonna blossom into
yeah.
some real diamonds.
And Dort's taking a huge jump. I mean, nobody's talking about him for most improved, 17 points per game. Still playing great defense. I mean, he's an awesome piece, but I think the most
Another
constricted,
undrafted guy.
yeah, I think the most constricted team actually is my Magic. They You look at that team, they have a very after years of never having this issue, they finally have a pretty crowd in regards to the rebuild and guys you want to develop. They have a pretty crowded front court where they have when Fultz comes back, they're still balancing minutes between RJ Suggs and Cole. Fultz comes in, suddenly got a one of those guys is almost out of the rotation with the minutes that Jamal Mosley's been playing. And you look at their forwards, the forwards are also just stacked. Where do I got it? Um, they got yeah, they got Carter, they got Bamba, they got Okiki, they got Wagner, and then Ross is still on team, and then Isaac's gonna come back. I think
Yeah,
you don't
it's too
draft another
many
forward.
guys that you want to give minutes to.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like what obviously you just draft at this point. You're like, all right, we kind of have talent everywhere. Let's just draft the best available. But I think they're eyeing Chet too. I think they know Bamba's not the set. And if they really think that Carter could play next to Chet, I think that's a nice fit. And that's who I would go with,
Yeah, I mean, I
obviously, if they
think
had the option.
this year you gotta trade Mo Bamba. Like at this point, it's time to rip the Band-Aid off, and especially if you can replace him with someone on a fresh rookie contract. Like it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know if they're gonna get much back from Pamba. I think maybe they'll get a decent vet and like or maybe 2 second-round picks for him, which is fine.
He's
I'd
got
take that.
free up playing time for other guys. It's
Yeah,
time to move on.
like I don't think Bamba's potential is gone. I just think the Magic found their center in Wendell Carter. I think they're just kind of kicking the can down the road by playing. I mean, they might as well play him so he can only increase his value. I mean, from where he was at. Not saying he was rock bottom, but he went from never playing. So the more he plays, maybe the Thunder will see something, and maybe the Thunder drop, and they're like, all right, we'll take on Mo Bamba. Here's
Yeah.
one of our 1,000 first-round picks. But
Yeah, definitely could see that.
yeah, but I mean, lottery for as being a secondary Timberwolves fan, lottery's been the most exciting year for me, a part of the year for me the last few years, and now with the Magic back in there, it's nice to actually compete for a decent pick now. Honestly, like it's kind of depressing when you're just a fringe team like the Hornets were, like the Pistons were, like the Timberwolves were, where you're like, the lottery doesn't matter because I know what pick I have. It's going to be like 12 through 15. So it's not exciting enough up until last few years for the Timberwolves. But
You're bad enough where it's exciting.
yeah, well, now we're bad. It's so bad it's exciting. It's the spectrum. Like nobody cares if it's too hot. I mean, nobody cares if it's in between. They only care if it's cold or scorching hot. So
Yeah, that's
But-
true.
I'm just here to tell you guys, like and subscribe. Please do that. Also, comment below. Let us know what you guys thought about this video. If you want to roast us, roast us. If you want to compliment us, please, I need compliments.